All right, ladies, in this video, we're going to go through your test, and I'll just put it up here. It just disappeared. There we go. Your Year 9 measurement test for 5A to 5D. Now, I'm not going to go through every single question, even though sometimes I get a little bit sidetracked and I probably will do some that aren't on my list of questions to do. But as you can see, the answers are there. So I will go slowly. So if you're using this to correct, obviously you can see the correct answers. If I don't go through the solutions of a particular question, please make sure you think about it and see if you can do it on your own. But if not, please ask your teacher. So either ask me, or if I'm not your teacher, ask your teacher. As I said, I'm only going to do the questions that my class found difficult or the majority of students got wrong. Sorry, I shouldn't say the majority of students got wrong. A higher number of students got wrong, okay? So the questions I'm going to do, I'm not going to write them down. I'm going to do question 4, 10, 12, 13, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Now those later questions, the largest error was basically in rounding. So in rounding, if it was a rounding error, I usually gave you the mark anyway. So if you are wondering why you got extra marks, it was probably because you only rounded incorrectly. But do make sure you can round, okay, because in the future, you might not have someone as kind as me. Okay, let's move on. So question 1, all right, answer is B. Question 2, the answer is C. Question 3, the answer is, I was looking at my sheet, C. All right, question 4. Now, a lot of people got this question wrong. I think because I didn't notice it was I'm trying to use my pencil on my computer, not on my tablet. Okay, they were looking at centimeters instead of centimeters squared. And remember, and these are all in your textbook, when you're going from centimeters squared to millimeters squared, okay, so when we're going from one to the other, we're going to be multiplying because we're getting smaller, so we're going to have more units. How many millimeters are there in a centimeter? There are 10, so we're going to be multiplying by 10. And because we're dealing with area, we're multiplying by 10 squared. Okay, so just remember when you're dealing with length, then it would just be times 10. Here we're dealing with area, and that's indicated by the squared sign. And that's why we're multiplying by 10 squared. And then if you're doing volume, okay, volume would be 10 cubed. All right, so 500, we're looking at 500 centimeters. We want to convert that into millimeters. So all we do is multiply that by 100. Now you can do that on your calculator, or you can just say, well, when I multiply by 100, I'm just going to add on 2 zeros. So it's going to be 500, add on your 2 zeros, so it's 50,000. And you can see it written there. So you could have written it like that, but you can see that there are other options. So it just allowed for you to write them differently. So I did check to see whether you did write them a little bit differently. So some people would write it as 50,000, or you might write it as 50,000 with a space in the middle. Okay, so technically they're all the same. The most incorrect answer was 5,000, which was just multiplying it by 10. So just be careful, read the question properly. All right, let's move on to question 10. Now the answer for question 10 was actually wrong. Okay, so if you were marked incorrect for question 10, I probably went through and fixed it for you, because the question actually, the units is in meters and the answer says centimeters. So a lot of you converted into centimeters, which is the right thing to do, but you can see here that textbook has left it as meters. Okay, so would have marked you incorrectly. Now, if you did put 37.5 and you didn't convert, I didn't deduct marks. Okay, so don't worry about that. All right, so here we've got what we call a sector of the circle. Okay, so just part of the circle, and we're going to find the perimeter. So that means we need to work out what we call the arc, the outside, so like the circumference of the circle. But we got to include these two parts here. So if you got this question wrong, you probably didn't add 10, okay, the 5 and the 5. And I know when I first did this question, I didn't do it properly. All right, so what we need to do, the formula for this is theta over 360. So we're just looking for the portion of the circle that we want. Then we multiply that by 2 pi r, which is the circumference of a circle. And then we're going to add on our 2 radius. Okay, so there's not really a formula where it says plus 2r. I don't think there is one in your textbook. I could be wrong. But you should have seen that, all right, the whole shape we needed to include those 5s. Okay, so let's substitute in what we've got. So theta, your angle is 315 over 360 times 2 pi times 5. Okay, so your radius is 5 plus 2 times, oh, love it how I say something yet I write something different. Okay, so that should have been a plus sign, sorry. Plus 2 times 5. And now that looks like a plus, but that should be a times. Okay, so when you put that all into your calculator, you will get 37.5. All right, correct to 1 decimal place. Now, it does say in centimeters, so a lot of you wrote 3750, which is fine. I haven't actually done this on my calculator, so I might just pause and do it on my calculator. Actually, I have done it on my calculator, which is a bit silly. So it does come up to, if you were doing it to 1 decimal place, it should be 3748.9. And I might go back and just check if anyone actually wrote that. I think I got everyone, but if you did write that and I haven't, and you feel like I haven't picked it up, please let me know. All right, so that was in centimeters. So this answer was in meters. Come on, there we go. And this is your answer in centimeters. But I did accept 3750. All right, let's move on to question 12. So there's the answer for question 11. All right, so question 12, let's just scroll, so we've got a bit of space. All right, so question 12. All right, the formula is actually written there for us, and you can kind of see, I'm just wondering, so we've got 2 pi r, calculate the perimeter, it's exactly the same as the previous question. Okay, well, that's funny. All right, so in question 10, we basically did exactly the same thing. A lot of you got the 210 and the 8 correct, but then got the 45.3 incorrect. Now, if it was a rounding error, I'm assuming it was, I can't see any other room that the error could have been made other than maybe doing your multiplications incorrectly. So I might not actually go through that question with you because it could have just been a rounding error. As I said, I think actually when I say there were some of you, I think there was maybe two of you who got the 210 and the 8, and I gave you half a mark, but you got this final answer incorrect. All right, let's move on to question 13. Well, now I have to change that to, change that to a 3. Okay. This bridge shape was formed by cutting a semicircle, which is half a circle, from a rectangle. Determine the size of the shaded area, giving your answer correct to 1 decimal place. Again, this could have been just a rounding problem, why a few of you got it wrong. So I'm going to do it anyway, just in case you didn't know how to do it. So I'm going to do the area of the rectangle, which is 30 times 12. And then I'm going to subtract the area of this semicircle. So the area of a circle formula is pi r squared. So this is going to be pi times 8 squared. So your radius is 8, but we only want half of it. So I'm going to divide it by 2. Okay, so let me just quickly do that on my calculator. So 30 times 12 minus. Now, if you're putting this into your calculator, just be careful. You might need to put brackets around there. Brackets, you can never have enough brackets. So I encourage you to use them as much as you can. Okay, and oops, I left my answer as an exact answer. Let me just quickly go back. So you get 259.469, blah, 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 blah. So rounded to one decimal place is 259.5, and we're working in meters squared. All right, question 21 is the next. Oh, sorry, I won't go so quick just in case you want to check the answers. You can always pause. Okay, there's 16, 17, and there's 18, 19, 20. Okay, so let's look at question 21. I might start a new page. All right, the length of the arc of this circle measures 60 millimeters. Okay, so we've got that arc length there. The radius length is what we have to work out. So when you think we've already done 2 questions, well, I've done 2 questions involving an arc with you. There could have been more. I can't really remember from designing this test, but you should see that this is a right angle. So basically, we're working with a quarter of a circle, which is the same as writing 90 over 360. That is still a quarter. So we've got a quarter of a circle. And if you simplified 90 over 360, you actually get a quarter. And then we've got times pi, 2 pi r, sorry. I was about to write the formula for a circle. So times 2 pi r. And that is equal to 60. All right, so we know what it's equal to. We got to work out what the radius is. Okay, so I'm just going to simplify this a little bit. So a quarter times 2 pi r equals 60. Now, a quarter times 2 is a half. Okay, so you can write that if you like. But now we've basically got an algebraic equation and we have to solve for r. So let's get rid of this half first. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So that disappears and I'm left with pi r. Obviously, there's other ways you can do it. If you're looking at this and thinking, oh, why didn't you just do the half and the pi together? Yes, I could do that, but let's just keep it as simple as possible. All right, so your radius is equal, let's just put the other line on, 120 divided by pi. Okay, so your answer, you get 38.197, blah, blah, blah. So we want to put our answer to the nearest whole number, which is 38. Okay, so quite a tricky question, that one. The next one I'm going to do is 22. All right, so let's write 22 down. Okay, so for this one, you needed to know the formula for the area of the kite, which I'm just going to double check. I think I know what it is, but I don't want to write down the wrong formula. All right, so your area, now I can't remember what your textbook called it, but it's basically, and I don't know whether I can draw on here. What's it going to do? No, it's not going to let me draw on it. So it's this vertical length. Okay, so if you can kind of imagine a kite with your 2 rods in it. So you got that vertical length and then this horizontal length. So I'm going to call them, I think your textbook may have called them XY. So I'm going to use XY, but I can't remember. It doesn't really matter what letter you use, or maybe they use AB. I can't remember. All right, so then we've got 48. It's just your 2 lengths. So 48 and 97 divided by 2. And I'm going to do that on the calculator. 48 times 97 divided by 2. And you get 2328. All right. And actually, before we move on, you can kind of see, think about this dividing by 2. We've got a rectangle here. So you could say that's your length and your width, or your X and your Y. So basically this white area is the same as this purple area. And if you kind of think, and I can't draw in this shape unfortunately, but these two triangles make up this bottom part of the kite and these two make up this. So if you're thinking about the formula and how it's derived, there you go. It's just derived from the area of a rectangle. All right, let's do question 23 before I keep talking about how formulas come about. Okay, so question 23. So this is a word problem. Let's just see the whole question. Okay, I'll just move it over a bit. So a dance floor is made up of a semicircle for the DJ booth with a radius of 7 and a rectangle area for dancing measured 12 by 20 meters. Find the area of the dance floor rounding to 2 decimal places. Now, I did a very similar question in a previous video. So if you've been watching my videos of difficult problems, I did do, I think it was the same sort of scenario, a dance floor with a DJ booth. Okay, so we've got a semicircle on a rectangle. Okay, so let me just draw it. So there's our rectangle, which is 12 by 20. Now, it doesn't really matter where you draw your DJ booth. I think the other question, I put it on the end. I'm just going to put it up here because it kind of makes sense that the DJ is in the middle and all you cool cats are dancing here. So the radius of this is 7. Okay. So we've got the area of the rectangle is length times width, and the area of your semicircle, so remember the area of a circle is pi r squared, and we just want half, so I'm going to divide it by 2. All right, so plug everything in. So we've got 12 times 20, it doesn't matter what order you put them in, plus pi times 7 squared over 2. So I'm just going to put that into my calculator. I'll just draw that equal sign properly first. Okay, pi times 7 squared divided by 2. All right, so we've got, I was looking at the wrong answer then, I was like, it's not right. 316.9690 blah, blah, blah. We have to do this to 2 decimal places. So to 2 decimal places, it would be 316.97. Now, see how I've rounded at the end? Don't go ahead and do rounding as you go, even though it's probably only this part that you would do your rounding. It's just because and this is probably where mistakes happened, is you were doing your rounding as you were going, and that kind of decreases the accuracy. So always do your rounding at the end. All right, question 24. Sorry, email just came through. I might just turn my emails off, actually. There we go. All right, so a rectangular lawn measuring 24 meters long and 16 meters wide is covered with 20 white tables for a wedding. This question was also one that's in the textbook. I don't think I did it though. I remember reading it. Each with a diameter of 2 meters. What is the area, corrected 2 decimal places, of the lawn remaining uncovered by 20 white tables? Okay, so I'm obviously not going to draw 20 tables, and I hope you don't, because all we need is to think about is the rectangular lawn, and it's 24 times 16, and we've got 20 white tables. So there's one table. I'm just going to draw that bigger over here, and it has, I think it was 2 meters, wasn't it? Let me just double check. Diameter of 2 meters. So remember, a diameter is the full length. It would be a pretty big table if the radius was 2 meters. Okay, so you got 20 of them. So we've got to remember to multiply it by 20. So effectively, our formula is going to be the area of this shape, which is length times width. Take away 20 tables. So your 20 tables. Now we've got a diameter of 2, so that means your radius is 1. So it's going to be pi times 1 squared, which is just pi. Oops, I probably should have just written the formula there, sorry. So 24 times 16 minus 20 pi. And I'm going to do that on my calculator. Okay, and I get 321, oops, I was trying to write on my laptop again. All right, 321.168. And that is equal to, and we have to do it to 2 decimal places, so 321.17. All right, the very last question, let's read it first. Actually, I'm going to write it down. 25. Okay. A ballroom is made up of rectangle measuring, and oh gosh, it's the same sentence. Okay, so we've got rectangle and a semicircle. The room was renovated to expand the semicircle to a full circle. What would be the new area of the ballroom? Okay, so what a weird looking ballroom, but anyway, you've got a rectangle and we've got a circular ballroom. Okay, it doesn't really matter where the circle or the rectangle goes, as long as our question is right. So our rectangle is 12 by 18. Now it was a semicircle of a diameter of 6. If the room was renovated to expand the semicircle to a full circle, what would be the new area? So we've got, this is 6 diameter, remember, reading it correctly. Maybe if you got this question wrong, you didn't read it correctly. So 18 times 12 is your rectangle. And then we've got the circle, which is pi. Your radius, which is half, is 3. So times 3 squared. And I'm going to do that on my calculator. 18 times 12 plus pi times 3 squared. Okay, so we get 244.27. Yeah, it keeps going, but to 1 decimal place, it's 244.3. All right, girls, well done on the test. And if there's any other questions, please ask. Bye.